Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Martin with Invisible Matters. Welcome to the podcast. I want to thank everyone for watching, and this is where we remind everyone that we all have strengths and that we all have needs, and sometimes our needs are not easily apparent to the human eye. And sometimes we have to just step back a little bit and say, maybe something else is going on with another person. I want to remind you that the best way that you can support the podcast is to follow and subscribe. So today we're going to talk about Black fatherhood, the experience of being a Black father and raising children. We all know that there are commonalities among all fathers, but today we really want to hopefully learn about some invisible matters that I may not know about and some of you regarding the experience of being a Black father. And so my first guest is Mr. Brandon McGowan. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
May I call you Brandon?
Yes, you can.
Thank you very much. And then we also are honored to have Dr. Robert J. Wingfield. He is a licensed psychologist.
Thank you for having me.
And so tell us just a little bit about, because both of you all are very accomplished, and I know probably one of the most important things that you're most proud of is that you are fathers. So let's start with you sharing how many children do you have? What are their genders and age?
All right. So I'm currently a father of one, and I'm expecting one too. So my oldest, he's 3, and I have a baby girl on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, great. And what do you do?
I'm a civil
living?
engineer. I work for the Department of Defense.
Okay.
So I work more on the construction side,
Mm-hmm.
helping with the military construction.
Okay. Great.
First, congratulations on the one on the way.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
exciting. I am a father of 3. I have a girl named Clara. She's 8.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son who is turning 5 tomorrow. So happy birthday to him.
Happy
His nickname is
birthday.
RZ, so happy birthday, RZ. And then I have a youngest son who's 18 months, Caleb.
Okay. Busy. You all are busy. I'm sure.
Yes.
So, and may I call you Dr. Rob, or what should I call you?
I have many names.
I know.
And so, of course, I am the 4th Robert in my family. So I grew up not going by my first name because that would have been very confusing with 4 Roberts around.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up going by Josh. So you can call me Rob or you can call me Josh, and I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. Because I know you as Josh. So that's easy. So I think it would be helpful just to start out with, if you can think back before you became a father, what your expectations were or what you thought it would be like, and then what it actually turned out to be. So were there some differences, some surprises, Brandon?
So my story is I was not expecting to be a father. So I'm 32 now. So he was born around, I was about 29. So I was just living a good life, just happy, joyous. Found out I was having a child. So I was in shock, first of all. But then, you have to grab yourself together, prepare. But I am used to kids. So I grew up with my niece in the house. So I was about 16. I have about 8 nieces and nephews. So being around kids was that was pretty normal.
Used to that part.
Yeah, definitely used to that part. But as people always say, you can. It's always easy to have other people's kids because you got to give them back. I can't give mine back, so
That's right.
I've been a dad 24/7. But just to me that was the biggest thing. It's like you're a parent every single day, regardless if you're tired, sick, you're not feeling well, mentally drained, or whatever. You still have to show up because somebody's always depending on you. So to me, I think that was the biggest learning curve because I can't take a day off, and I can't just
That's right.
that's my child. So
That's right.
he lives with me, stays with me. So That was the biggest thing that I had to learn versus just again like just being around
The
my
day to day.
cousins,
Yeah.
my cousins and
Yeah.
nieces and
Okay.
nephews.
Josh, what was unexpected?
Oh, well, there were lots of things that were unexpected. I tend to think about the amount of shift there was with the being a planner and organizing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that my skills in those areas were adequate, and they were actually when I was single and childless. But it was an increased demand on being a planner and being organized that
I
I
bet.
totally did not, let's just say, calculate going into it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Right. So, as a therapist, share with us because I know you work with children.
Yes,
Okay. Children and adults or children?
children and adults.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so, what's the name of your practice?
The name of the practice is Bel Am. It's a French word meaning beautiful soul, and
Okay.
it's a behavioral health practice. And it's a private practice. It's primarily based in Bowie as well as Mitchellville, and we serve 0 all the way up through adults, but primarily right now children, adolescents, young adults.
Okay. Okay. What are your thoughts just in terms of the importance of having a father present early on in a child's life? And if not a father, a significant male figure, uncle, granddad.
Yes. One thing, it's a great question. One thing that stands out to me is my first experience becoming a dad, the maternity ward when my wife delivered. The nurse had me do skin to skin contact with my daughter, which I was not aware of was a thing. I kind of was familiar with the fact that the mom and the child had skin to skin contact. But I really appreciate the nurse who was insistent on me having skin to skin contact when my daughter was first born. And I would later come to learn about all the advantages, physical advantages, cognitive advantages. There are so many things that happen when skin to skin contact happens between a child and the father. So I think early on, the tone is set for bonding, and then being able to understand the child's needs. You can have skin to skin contact, and you can hear their heartbeat. You can feel them breathing, and you can feel them squirming. And so you're getting familiar at a very early stage of what their needs are.
Right.
And I believe throughout the lifespan, there's different versions of that. So it turns into something else, whether it's holding the child's hand or just hugging the child or even rocking the child to sleep, just having contact. And then it turns into other things, communication. It just grows and grows and grows. So I do think that there's something that happens in the brain. I know that there's things that happen in the brain when bonding is happening. And when there's a father, it could raise a kid's confidence, the sense of security, many different things, but it's also a lot of benefits for the dad himself, being able to feel needed, feel wanted, and feel, let's call it, have meaning and purpose. So even godfathers and uncles, these are individuals who sometimes stand in the gap, whether a dad is deployed, sometimes a dad might be incarcerated, sometimes a dad might be deceased. And I've seen tremendous impacts from godfathers and uncles and individuals who might not be the biological dad, like a stepdad, but still being able to stand in the gap and provide these benefits to the child. So that is a pivotal relationship.
Right. Wonderful. How would you all say that your relationship with your fathers or grandfathers have, had an influence on how you parent as dads?
I think my relationship with my father is we have a good relationship, and I kind of my father's a jokester. He never really took things way too serious. My mom was the more disciplined of the two. So like just looking at my mom was more disciplined. My dad was I guess I would classify him as a man's man. So like he worked on cars and he was just always handy. So me having that, like that's what I want to bring into my son's life as well. I definitely have to discipline him because he's a mama's boy. So I just have to, in our relationship is reverse. I'm more of the disciplined person, but again, as going back to the relationship with my father and the things I pull from that, I look at it, because I could talk to him about anything, just general advice, like yesterday he helped me with my car, so just basic things like that I take from my father, and I try to do with my son as well, and also. Now that I'm going to have a baby girl, I have an older sister, so my dad has a daughter, so I can pull from that as well, because I won't have any. Well, I do have a clue, but it's like I said earlier, it is different when the child is actually yours. So I'm excited and nervous at the same time, but I think just having that relationship with my father gives me a guide, a kind of like a small playbook, because every child is different, but I do have an example of what things should look like and how to go about certain things.
And that's important.
Yes, I think that's very important.
Josh?
It's funny, Brandon mentioned calling his dad to talk about vehicles.
Yeah.
I still do that to this day.
Really?
Even though I'm grown and I have my own mechanic, I still like to have that check-in just to make sure I'm on track. So that father relationship can really benefit a person even into adulthood, as Brandon alluded to, but also my background, I guess I would say, since my parents were married young and they went into their callings at an early age, they were doing a lot of management, multitasking, and were very effective at it. And my dad, great guy, great man. And in addition to having my dad, I had my two grandfathers, my mom's dad and my dad's dad, who would step in and guide me. And I continued to benefit from those three male figures' influence on me at an early age. I take a little bit of each of them into my parenting. So because I have three kids, one situation might call for my paternal grandfather's model a little bit more for a particular kid, and then another situation might call for my maternal grandfather's touch to emerge, and then another situation might call for my father's primary strengths to emerge. So it's a blessing. I realize it's a blessing to be able to recall three essentially father figure individuals who were influential in my life, and being able to extract their strengths into a given scenario. And no person is perfect, so to have a combination of father figures,
A little bit of this and a little bit of that, put it all together.
Exactly. So I know I'm really blessed to have that as my story.
So when I thought about this episode, I really wanted to know what or how would you all describe your experience as being a black father different from other men?
It is a great question. I would say patterns have emerged in my life where I've observed differences between a black father and a white father. And that's not to say that all blackness is expressed the same in fatherhood. We know the black community and black people are not a monolith. So a key to my observations was noticing just how many of my peers who were maybe not fathers yet, but if they talked about their families, they typically had things like vacation homes or a second or third property. And that was not exactly the common experience from how I grew up. Thankfully, the majority of peers and families I had connection to growing up did own a property, which is a big achievement. But in terms of owning multiple properties, I really started to understand and appreciate and just learn how common that is amongst some other races. And so I believe that probably started the motivation in me to want to have multiple properties for my kids. So once they go out into the world, if they need a place to stay in grad school, instead of just staying in like an apartment or a 1-year rental, their parent might buy them a townhouse on campus or near campus, and then they rent it out to their friends. And then when they graduate, they can sell it or hold on to it.
Right.
These different strategies, where in the black experience. It might be, it's just a big deal to get a scholarship to go on a campus to attend a graduate school. It wasn't necessarily a priority for my black peers that we were thinking about buying a property.
Right.
So when I would see essentially the white fathers come down to help their kids buy properties on, let's say, the campus down in Florida where I attended the University of Florida, that was new to me. But it put a seed in my brain that, okay, when my kids go to graduate school, instead of just looking for temporary housing, I might buy them a property.
Right, right. You think different from the previous
differently.
generation.
Yes, yeah.
And what you're describing is, I think parents of your ages do think about generational wealth more than, some previous ones, which is awesome. Awesome. Were you going to say something?
No, I agree. Like, with him just saying that now, I didn't think about that at all. Like, my parents' goal was, I had good grades, like you said, just to get to school and get through school. We didn't even think about, hey, let's monetize that, or like, where can he stay? I stayed on campus and had a meal plan. That was their biggest worry. Like, hey, you got food, clothes, you can, go to school. But outside of that, yeah, that's a great point. I'm gonna have to write that down when I leave. That's a great point
to think about. So when you think about your own children and their futures, I would imagine as a father that that's something that's playing in your head constantly. Is that true? And what kind of thoughts and aspirations do you have?
Yeah, I often think about my child's future, and I want them to be able to. I want to be able to be. I want to put myself in a position to put them in a position for them to be able to do whatever they want to do. Because I wasn't afforded that opportunity growing up, so we were all just figuring things out, and now that I can use my experience of going through that, and try to break the cycle of that. So I feel like it's on me to put myself in position that I can afford my children to be able to go to school and have the townhouse, or maybe they don't want to go to school. I just want I want to be able to expose my children to everything, so they can have the luxury to pick something that they want to do, and it's not forced. Because I feel like our generation, we grew up. Go to school and get a career that you can, make money and be successful.
Put bread on the table.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and I know a lot of my friends. I'm an engineer. Some of my friends have their degree and quickly change after they gain their engineering degree. Some people are in sales and things of that nature. So I feel like that probably can't stem from them not being exposed to everything, or maybe they weren't able to deep dive into the things that they actually really did like. So again, I just want to afford my children those kind of opportunities where they don't I want them to have to have their hands in multiple pots and pick their favorite thing and just I want them to be as creative as possible. And I feel like the best way to do that is for me to, kind of clear the path. Let me take on all. Let me take on all the weight, so you can have the, the clean slate.
Right.
And I want them to be better than me. I want them to look at me as an example. Like, hey, my dad was able to do this. I want them to surpass me. So that's my goals.
Great.
Piggybacking on that, it made me think about the importance of critical thinking. I try to instill in my kids critical thinking. Because like Brandon alluded to, he may have had some peers who pivoted in their career. And if they are successful after they pivot, then one could say they had some attributes or something, they were equipped to be able to pivot.
Right.
And so I would like for my kids to be able to have skills that are transferable across industries. So if they get fed up in one industry, or their season is over, they're not one-trick ponies. They can run their own business, or they can just take things like sabbatical. And as I progressed in life, I realized how many people take 6-month vacations or 3-month vacations, or a year-long hiatus from employment, which means they must be saving money, or they must have residual income, or they just don't have to punch a clock every day. And so I would like for my kids to be critical thinkers, continue to be creatives, and use their God-given abilities to generate income to take care of themselves and take care of their future families.
Wonderful. Let's talk about education a little bit, and not so much even college, but just, as your children are very young, how important is it to make informed decisions about parenting?
I think it's very imperative because you only get one shot. You get one shot. Gathering all the information beforehand, or whether just talking to different people who's been in your situation before. On the education aspect, go visit the school, or talk to people who's graduated there, or who's matriculating through. Whether it's my child goes to a Christian school that my mom works there, so I know the teachers. She's been there over 20 years, so I know everything about the school. So for him to go there, that was an easy choice because I know the ins and out of it.
Do what's familiar.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to think about what are they teaching my child? Like, are they teaching them to become bilingual, and things like that matters. Like, as we live in a society where we have a lot of immigrants that speak a different language, and them being able to speak a different language, or being able to adapt to the language puts them ahead of other people. So, just small things like that, and if you start them off young, learning another language, they'll be fluent by the time they're 18, 19. Yes. So, so just going back, it's very, very important to have, to make these important decisions, and you got to get them right the first time, because you can't double back. You're losing time. So, so again, it's very important.
You feel pressured? Do you feel any pressure just as a father?
Yes, pressure every day. Number one, you have to provide. Second thing, you want to be able to, you want to set a great example. So like we said, nobody's perfect. You do make mistakes, but you want to limit those mistakes, because you do have somebody watching you
at all times.
Yeah, like literally, I cannot go from the bathroom to the kitchen without my son walking behind me. So he's literally watching me. He watches my mannerisms, the way I talk, and things of that nature. He's very observant. So it's definitely it's a lot of pressure. And
Josh, you feel pressure of any sort?
Pressure, I would say, in good ways and in ways that need to be managed. Some of the pressure is just making me better as a parent, and then other forms of pressure is maybe self-induced or the absence of faith. And when that kind of pressure emerges, I know I need to elevate prayer, elevate faith. So it's just kind of understanding and studying what version of pressure has emerged. I know that there's pressure if, like, I have an analytical mind, so I do calculations on how many years I have until my kid turns 18. And I'll say, okay, 10 years, whatever I need to do in the next 10 years to prepare my daughter for life on her own. So then it becomes a matter of, well, how many months does that translate into? Then how many minutes? And then I stop right before I can be diagnosed with OCD. So I know I might have a little bit of the O and the C, but I try to stay away from the D, the disorder part of it. But it does allow, the pressure should propel conversation, like conversation with my wife, conversation with my circle of guy friends. A lot of us went to college together, and we try to connect at least once every 3 months. And it's like several of us are fathers now. I think all of us are fathers by now. Some of us with 2 kids, or 1 or 3 or 4 or 5. And when we come together, we all kind of pour into each other, so the valve is turned, and some of the pressure can be released as we have community amongst the guys, and we call it our village. And it's a tremendous group of guys who come together to help one another, like manage that pressure.
So, Brandon, you mentioned that your son's eyes are always on you and
Yes.
that he's following you around. So that means he's very observant
Yes.
and that you're having a big influence on him. Tell me about just some thoughts about your own mental health, maintaining, a sense of well-being and mental health. How do you handle expressing your emotions and taking care of yourself emotionally in front of your son?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm actually working. I'm actually working on that now because I'm a reserved kind of person, so I don't display too much no matter what I'm going through. I always had the mindset of no matter what you're going through, you still have to show up. You still have to provide. Yeah, again, like no matter like you can be disconnected, but you still have to show up. Like even whether it's your job or just family members and things of that nature. So that's something that I've always struggled with. It was a combination of like nobody really cares about me because like what somebody always says is like who checks on the strong person. I'm normally the strong person, but who checks on me? Nine times out of 10, nobody. So I'm definitely working on expressing myself. But as far as my son, I let him see my emotions. I don't think you've ever seen me like cry anything. I'm not a big crier or things like that. But when it comes to him, like if he hurts himself or things, something of that nature, I let him cry it out. I'm not big on you're a man, let him cry. I'm like, hey, what's wrong with you? All right, did you hurt yourself? Show me where you hurt yourself. Are you okay? Can you shake it off? Like what's going on? Like I try to talk to him. And other times, sometimes he just might have a temper tantrum and things like that. So just like, hey, what is the problem? What's going on? I try to talk to him so he can be articulate to other people as well
And express his emotions.
Exactly. Like, hey, I'm not happy. I'm sad. I feel this kind of way. I feel that kind of way. So I do my best to, like, in those moments, I try to take those moments where if he's just crying, don't know why he's crying, like, hey, I need you. Help me help you. So I'm gonna talk to you. Now you talk to me and tell me what's going on. Okay, you broke your toy. I'm not buying another one. But hey, you broke it. I told you don't do it. So, or he might have fallen off the bed. And are you okay? You feel good? Like what happened? Okay, you can't do that anymore. You understand that part and things of that nature.
And that's better than
just
stop that crying.
Yeah,
stop it right now.
Yeah, you a boy. Toughen up. Things of that nature.
Yes.
So
Yes. Awesome.
Don't want to be.
Thank you, Josh. Emotions.
Emotions are the centerpiece of my profession. So I'm constantly curious as to what a client or a patient, depending on the setting, what they are thinking and what they're feeling. And so that training in psychology has infiltrated in a good way my parenting. So I'm always very curious as to what my kids are thinking and what they're feeling. And as a person who really embraces applied behavioral analysis, that is a science that is interested in understanding a behavior, the manifestation of a behavior based on the circumstances. And so you take a circumstantial view. There are variables in the environment or in the distant, in the recent past or the present that have influenced the manifestation of the behavior that you're observing in the moment. And so I would say for any parent, one of the most important things that can be done to get a child to accept their own emotion is to pause, allow them to take a moment and collect their breathing, get their breathing on track, and then pose open-ended questions. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what's going on. And Brandon alluded to this, how the curiosity shows love in a lot of ways. And if the question is posed to truly get more information, the child will oftentimes provide knowledge that is unknowable until they give a response.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of humility to understand that instead of jumping to conclusions or having a judgment about the child, just pause. Another phrase for it is peel back the onion. Peel back the onion and let the conversation be slow and low in intensity. and that's a good way for kids to open up and just feel safe and
Great,
comfortable.
great, great. And so, do you have any advice as we close out for Brandon because he's having a daughter? That any special thing, that you think would be helpful to him and to our viewers?
I assess for personality, and the moment Brandon started speaking, I knew he was high in this trait called conscientiousness. And that is a understanding and even I would say, fascination of what's going on around a person. It's almost like a spidey sense, a sixth sense. So I think those make the best girl dads, because so much of the father-daughter relationship is, some of it is abstract, and you don't have to do lectures. You don't really have to do long discipline procedures for a girl. I've come to learn it's more like noticing when your daughter is off, and then being patient to figure out, how do I want to approach this, and just being in rhythm with your daughter, I think is super important. And I've noticed that perhaps the testosterone in boys, which is already measurably different from the time that they're a few months old, you see demonstrative differences in just the availability of testosterone in the boy infant versus the girl infant. So boys will be more active typically and into things and kind of all over the place. But I've noticed with at least my daughter and some other girls I've worked with, they typically have a slower pace to how they operate in a space, and I think it's in some regards it's easier to raise a daughter, and I think you're going to be phenomenal. I think you're going to be phenomenal. I think I had it easy because I had a girl first. Honestly, I think it's easier to have a girl first and then have boys. You had a boy first, so you're going to be more than okay.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Any parting words of advice, just in general, perhaps for someone who is preparing to be a new dad, or for people who already are? Any words of advice?
For me, I would say, one, expect the unexpected and be okay with that. Because you can't plan everything, and like, just on my end, my son was born with COVID. Nobody expected that.
Wow.
So yeah,
Really?
yeah. So
See, there you go.
so yeah. So that's just a prime example of just expect the unexpected. He's healthy now, but you can't plan for everything, and if you're a like a person who has to have everything by the T, you have to loosen those reins, because parenthood is not an ABC thing. It's an AB 1 2 3 10 15 90 back to one square kind of thing. So you have to be you have to be okay with being uncomfortable, but you can't stay uncomfortable. So again, just
Great advice.
expect the unexpected, and and be okay with that.
Yeah, that was great. I would say prioritize dynamic attention with your child, and dynamic attention is the parent's undivided attention, and that's hard. That could be hard in this day and age, where multitasking is the norm in the Western culture. And kids are highly offended when their parents multitask. And so dynamic attention can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as long as it's every day. And don't feel obligated to have an hour or 2 or 3 of undivided attention, because it's probably unrealistic.
Right.
But even if it's 5, 10, 15 minutes of just undivided attention with your child, and each child, if you have multiple kids, should have their own dynamic attention episodes or special time throughout the day, and everything after that is smoother if they get that dynamic attention. So I would say blocking and protecting one's schedule to allow for that experience to occur.
Wonderful. I feel like we could have a whole nother episode. There's so many thoughts and questions just running through my mind. You all are amazing. Really insightful. I know that this conversation is going to help some other dads, also help some moms in terms of just kind of thinking about, the man's perspective of parenting.
Check on us, ladies. Check on us.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much for being here today. And as we close out, sometimes our guests have something special. They want to sing or do a poem or that kind of thing. I'm not going to do that to you all unless you have something.
I'm talentless. Jesus.
No, your talent is being a great dad. For real, for sure. But what I just wanted to share was for our viewers to check out Sidney Poitier's book, The Measure of a Man. That book is amazing, and it talks about how the measure of a man is how well he takes care of his children. Great book. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Take care.